Around the world, people are beginning to contemplate a life after lockdown.
China appeared to have passed the worst.
Some of Spain is returning to work.
Germany is due to end social distancing measures in a week's time.
And governments are grappling with what to do next. With no way to eradicate COVID-19 and the ever-present risk of a resurgence, what's the right way to leave lockdown? Placing more than a third of the world's population under lockdown has done much to slow the spread of the new coronavirus. But there's a big price to pay.
The problem is that it's incredibly damaging to the economy, and that has real consequences for people's lives. The lockdown is really just a very intense form of social distancing, and you want to relax that as much as possible. So you want to work out which elements of the social distancing have the most effect on the disease, but the least effect on the way people lead their lives.
The trouble is, no one is certain what the right formula is. So governments will need to strike a delicate balance and take a very cautious approach to which measures they loosen, how and when. Take, for example, the tricky question of getting children back to school.
Countries like Denmark and Germany have looked at reopening schools, although under very strict conditions, which means you have a sort of social distancing within the classroom. Good luck with that.
As with other social distancing measures, making the wrong call on this could lead to a resurgence of the disease. But given the broad impact of school closures on children and their parents, and that young children in particular may not be as vulnerable to the effects of COVID-19, there is a case for trying to reopen schools sooner rather than later. China has already pioneered the use of social distancing measures within schools to enable them to reopen. So far, the country has avoided a second wave of infection, which is why there may be other lessons to learn from China's staggered return to daily life, from capping the number of people allowed in restaurants and public places, to severely limiting the number of workers that firms can have on site each day.
Social distancing isn't a binary phenomenon. The way to think of it is a series of measures, each of which does a little bit to reduce the spread of the disease at a particular inconvenience or cost to the society.
An element of trial and error is inevitable, which means governments will need to be prepared to tighten the rules again if new infections start to mount.
A second element, which helps you with all of that, is testing and contact tracing. To detect people who have the disease, identify all the people they've been in touch with, contact them, test them, put them in isolation. If any of them are infectious, then you contact the people that they are in touch with.
Tracking the virus in this way is an essential strategy if countries are to become less dependent on social distancing.
You can concentrate all that effort on the people who are most likely to have the disease. A corollary of that is that the people who you don't have to contact are freer to move around than they otherwise would be.
It's a huge task, but technology may be able to offer a shortcut.
Apple and Google are teaming up to work on technology to help reduce the spread of coronavirus.
To help deliver contact tracing to Americans and people around the world.
The idea is that when Apple and Android phones can work together and be in touch with each other, if someone's infected, you can go back over the log that shows you all the people that they've been in touch with and identify very, very rapidly, who the contacts have been, and then direct your testing to them.
Germany, Ireland and America are among the countries now building infection tracking apps that could run on Apple and Google's new protocol. Governments could use these apps to create a form of COVID-19 passport, classifying individuals by whether they've tested positive or not.
And that's a system that you've had used pretty thoroughly in China, such that people have to show their phone and show they've got a green status, which means they can travel around.
But to feel the benefits of this innovative approach, governments are going to have to really invest.
But it doesn't work unless you also have an army of testers to go around and follow up these leads, test all the people, ensure that they're keeping their quarantine.
Research suggests that America alone would need to employ another 100,000 contact tracers at a cost of around $3.6 billion.
The other thing is you need the physical tests. You need the reagents, you need all the materials, and you need them manufactured on an immense scale.
Without this, further lockdowns could become inevitable.
The less good your testing and the less good your contact tracing, the more general and harmful actually the lockdown has to be in order to create the same effect. You have a big, broad net to catch the same number of infectious people. A third element is to make your health system more robust. When health systems get swamped, then the number of deaths really goes up fast. So you can invest now in equipping medics with all the protection they need, having enough ventilators, having enough ICU beds, which means that if the disease does start to pick up, the consequences are less bad.
Of course, there's the ultimate way to return to daily life.
Scientists in Oxford are hoping to have 1 million doses of a coronavirus vaccine by September.
3 vaccines are already in clinical trials, 2 in the United States, 1 in China.
There are many vaccine candidates in development.
In the year or more it may take to deliver an effective vaccine, governments should be preparing for the next challenge, producing it.
Finding the vaccine is one thing, but then you have to manufacture it at scale, and that will be really quite hard.
Part of the answer is to start building manufacturing plants now, at a cost of billions of dollars, before an effective vaccine has been found. Without this investment, there will be a shortage of manufacturing capacity, and as long as there's a shortage, some countries are likely to push to the front of the queue.
There's a danger that different countries try and corner the market for their own citizens, which is understandable but not very good for the world, because it means that vulnerable populations and really key workers like healthcare workers who need protection in order to care for everybody else, they will go short.
Locating manufacturing plants across the world could help counter this vaccine nationalism and ensure the vaccine reaches those most in need. Long before there's any vaccine to be distributed, governments have more pressing calls to make on the right way to leave lockdown. With few certainties to guide them, they'll need to be nimble, versatile, and have vast reserves of patience for a return to everyday life that will be anything but business as usual.
Hi, I'm Edward Carr, the Economist Deputy Editor. It's amazing in just how a few short months the coronavirus story has come to dominate everything we do. So if you'd like to see more of our coverage, please click on the link opposite. Thank you for watching.